Hi guys, what are we gonna do today? Today we're gonna make this cute little cookie mix bag, or you could turn it into whatever type of bag you would like. So IOD has just come out with paint inlays. And I'm sure you're thinking, what are paint inlays? Well, that's what we're gonna find out today. So let's get started.
So what we're gonna use to make this bag is a piece of material. And this is 7.5 by 20. So when I fold it in half, it's 7.5 by 10. So that's what we're gonna start with. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to paint it and put my inlays on here first before we sew it together. So for this project, this is IOD's new paint inlays, a painted image. It is gonna transfer on with a wet medium. We're going to be doing this on fabric today with paint. The very bright side is the side that is going into the paint. The back side, you can see the grid lines really well. I know I'll need one sheet for this. What I'm doing is I'm just gonna cut this in half. And now I'm just gonna put these aside, but I'll have them when I get my paint down and they'll be ready to go. You really want your paint wet when you lay your inlay down. I am going to use this color, and it's called Apothecary, and it's a DIY paint. And I am just going to mix a little bit of this, and because it's going on fabric, I'm using this GAC 900, and it will keep your paint from getting really hard. This is a linen, so it is going to be a little stiff anyway because the fabric is stiff, but you could use a muslin or whatever type of fabric that you would like. So I am just gonna put some paint in here. I'm just squeezing some in. So I'm gonna mix it up. It's not half to half. It's probably 2/3 paint, 1/3 GAC 900, but it does water it down some. So I have my paint with my GAC 900, and what I'm gonna do is just paint this. And then I wanted to use just a little bit of crinoline. I'm just gonna splotch it in here a little bit. And I do want this paint to be nice and wet, because where it's not wet, it won't want to grab the image. I'm taking my inlay with the picture side down. Going to take my other piece, and I'm going to take my brayer and just brayer it so it has nice adhesion and it's nice and flat. You can see there's a little wrinkle here, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. You can see it, most of it comes out. So the moisture that is on my fabric is going to grab the actual paint that is on these flowers, and it will embed into the first green paint. So it looks like it's actual paint, and it doesn't feel like a transfer or a decal, but it's actually embedding into the paint. So it has to get wet and it activates it, and it will embed into this. I've played around with different times, and I kind of just look to see if it needs a little more or a little less. I have even found spraying it a little bit, it will make it moist again. So when you pull this off, it's really embedding nicely. And also when you're pulling this off, if the paper's completely dry, you're going to want to wet it a little bit so you're not ripping your sheet. You want it to be able to slide and glide right off of your fabric. It's anywhere from 3 minutes to 10 minutes. It really depends on the medium you're working on. See, I can pull back a little and see some of it coming up. I'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll pull this off. So this has really only been a couple minutes, and most of it is coming off nicely. If I feel like I need a little more, I'll just let it set for another minute or so. So when you pull it off, you want to lay this down on your carrier sheet because it can be used again. 3 to 4 different times you could use it. But you can see that my blue paint is also coming off on here, which is kind of cool because if I use it again, I will also transfer some of the blue paint onto my next project. I just noticed that each time you use it again, you're gonna get a little fainter of a look from your inlay. I'm gonna let this dry completely before we sew it. So on this bag, I just put this little tag and it says cookie mix, and I'd probably put a bag of cookie mix inside of here. And you could do a cute tag or not do a tag. I used some of the white linen to do this on. This time I think I'm gonna use a little piece of a quilt square, but you could make as big, as small, whatever you would like. And then I just wrote the word cookie mix on there, and I am just going to do a back stitch on there, and then I'm gonna stitch it onto my bag when it's completely done. And then we're gonna do is we're gonna whip stitch this onto our bag. So here's our piece and it's dried. What I'm gonna do is fold it in half with the outsides together, and we are going to sew on the sewing machine and do both of the side seams. So after you've trimmed your edges, you're going to take your bag and face the one side seam towards you. Open your bag up. You want that seam to lay flat against the bottom crease. And then I'm going to flatten the corner out, so now we have a triangle here. We're going to do the same with both sides, and you can see that the bottom seam is in the center, and then I'm going to measure down about 1 inch from the point. And then we're going to draw a line across so we know where we're sewing. So you want to do the same thing for both sides. Then you're going to sew across the lines you just drew. Okay, so you can either just trim this or you can just leave these 2 flips here. When I'm using my serger, it automatically trims it and finishes it. So either way is fine, because that is going to be the inside of your bag. This fabric is stiffer and the paint is stiffer. You're just going to carefully just push it through. And then just form your bag. I'm just using a pen with the cap on it. And what I'm gonna do is fold the top edge down about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So I'm just using parchment paper and I'm going to iron this down a little just to flatten out this top edge. Then we're going to add our tie and whip stitch our little tag onto the front. You could take a piece of trim, cording, seam binding, anything you would like. So what I'm going to do is just tack stitch it. Just do a running stitch to tack this to the back edge, just on the back to hold the tie in place. And then it will just be held in place here. And you can trim your tie just to however long you would like it. So I'm just going to whip stitch this onto the front of this bag. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could hem the inside. You could do a lot of other fun stitching to it to embellish it. Because of the stiffness of the bag, I think just having it ironed down is sufficient. So I hope you guys tried to make one of these cute little cookie mix bags or turn it into whatever type of bag you would like. In our blog, a few fun cookie mixes
that maybe you could do up and even put in your cookie mix bag. I hope you guys thought this was fun and informative. Our first use, you can see after we are done, this is what it kind of looks like, but this was a second and third use on this jar, so it's not quite as bright. And then even on here, I even used the spent paper and decoupage some of that onto this board. And you can see the other beautiful image that we put onto doors. Hope you guys give this a try. It'll be fun to play with and see what everybody comes up with. But whatever you do, have fun.